In a world where there are only 5 bourbons, these would be mine.
It's a beautiful night for bourbon. Yes, it is, folks. It's always a beautiful night for bourbon, no matter what. All right, well, tonight, I'm really not drinking. I just don't feel like it tonight, but I do need to crank out a video. So, what I figured is that instead of just picking one bourbon to sip on and kind of review, I would talk about 5 bourbons. Some time ago on Reddit, some guy came across an idea that all you need is 5 bourbons. And lots of YouTube bourbon channels have caught on to this, and they've picked their 5. Well, I'm going to pick my 5. And I'm going to add one further restriction on it, and that is that it has to be something that is currently in my bourbon collection. So something currently on my shelf. I'm not going out to purchase anything special for this. I'm just going to do it with what I've got and pick the 5 categories. And those categories are, first and foremost, a cheap mixer. And I'm going to go in pretty much from least expensive to most expensive order here. Not necessarily the same order that everybody else has gone in. So first, we're going to talk about the cheap mixer. This is something that you don't mind mixing into cocktails. It'll hold up to the taste of a cocktail, but it's not something really great where you're going to lose all of the subtleties and complexities and so on. It's going to make your cocktail taste like it's got bourbon in it, and that's really what you want. Second is your daily drinker. This is something that if you drank every day, you wouldn't mind drinking every day. It's got to be affordable, it's got to be replaceable, so it's something that you're not afraid of running out of, and that if you want more, you can run down to the liquor store and you can find it without having to hunt all over town or all over the state or all over the country for it. Next is your Friday night special. This is something that after a long day, after a long week of work, that you probably want to sit back and have something just a little nicer, a little step up from that daily drinker. And so that's what I've picked here. It's also something that is readily available, it's affordable, but it's basically a step up from that daily drinker. Then there is the impress your guest and your special occasion. Well, I never go really too expensive purchasing bourbon. To me, I love bourbon. I don't have to pay a lot in order to get something that I really love. So I don't spend a ton of money on a single bottle. Anything I have that is going to impress my guest is also going to fit the bill for a special occasion, but I have picked out 2. But the impress your guest is something that if you invite some people over and they see your 5 bourbons, they're going to think, wow, you got one of those. That's pretty cool. Can I try some? So that's what I'm going to put into that category. And then the other one is the one that I'm going to pull out, 3-4 times a year, maybe 6 times a year. Well, okay, maybe once a month. And have a glass of, if I'm celebrating something like a birthday, an anniversary, a holiday, anything like that. But it's something that I really don't want to run out of because it might not be replaceable. Okay, so now that we've defined the categories, let's take a look. What did I put in those categories? Well, the cheap mixer. This is Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. And if I hide, maybe my camera will focus on it. I'm not sure. Anyhow, it's 100 proof. And this whole bottle of 1.75 liters, so it's a really big bottle. It cost me something like $32, maybe $33. If I want to mix a cocktail, Evan Williams holds up really well for that. If I want to just drink it and have a sip of it, Evan Williams is pretty darn good for that. So it holds up in cocktails. It's a good sipping bourbon, and it's cheap, so I don't mind running out of it. You can find it pretty much anywhere, and so it can be replaced, and so I don't mind drinking it pretty regularly or having it in cocktails. Now, I don't drink a whole lot of cocktails, but once in a while I do, particularly when we get into the spring of the year. It gets to be around Kentucky Derby time, and my favorite cocktail is a mint julep. So I want something in that mint julep that is going to hold up to all of the mint and other flavors and ice and everything that is in there while I sip on that drink. My daily drinker, Wild Turkey 101. I really enjoy Wild Turkey. I didn't always. When I was in college, a lot of the guys would have bottles of Wild Turkey around, and if we wanted to do shots, well, that's kind of one of the things we did, and it was not something that I really cared to drink, and I never bought a bottle myself. I tried it in bars a few times after I moved to California, just because, well, that was the only bourbon that they had, or one of 2 or 3 bourbons that they had, and it seemed to be the one to order. So that's the only time I really ordered it until 2020. In 2020, I decided I was really going to get more into bourbon. I've always loved bourbon, but I needed to get more into it and explore more bourbons and find more bourbons that I really, really like. I went back and I gave Wild Turkey another chance, and lo and behold, I really like it. It's something that I like to keep on my shelf, and I wouldn't mind drinking every day, and it's readily available. It costs a little more than the Evan Williams, but only like $3 or $4 a bottle. I'd rather use the Evan Williams to mix with, but I'd rather sip on the Wild Turkey 101. The Friday Night Special. This one has been one of my favorite bourbons since my college days. I discovered it very shortly after turning 21, probably within the first year, and it's been one of, if not my favorite bourbon, pretty much ever since. It's a bit more costly. I think this runs about $32.99 a bottle here in Ohio. The state controls the prices, so everybody sells it for the same price. I think that's about what it is. It's 114 proof. It's a Jim Beam product, and I can't say enough good things about it. This would be a really good bourbon at about half again the price. So it's a real bargain, but you have to like high rye bourbons. This is, I think, 27% rye in the mash bill, so it's a fairly high rye mash bill. It's spicy, it's sweet, it tastes like cinnamon. It's just really, really good. If I have guests over, I want to show them something that they might find is, well, they might not find. It can be a little hard to get. I think that would impress them even more than something that is a little more expensive. Who knows, but like I said, I think these two categories are kind of interchangeable. But right now, what I've got that I think would impress my guests is the Weller Antique 107. It's This is definitely one of my favorite bourbons ever since I first discovered it back last fall. I'd never had it before. My brother gave me a bottle for my birthday, and I recently just finished that off, and lo and behold, they were selling more. It's been around Ohio pretty frequently for the past couple of months. Don't know how long it's going to be that way, so I picked up a bottle just a little bit before I ran out of the other one, so that I have at least one bottle on hand. Because it's hard to find, I think it is a little more impressive, and people are going to go, oh, you've got some Weller. And I have some of that. I've never tried that before. I've never seen it in the store before, etc. It's not been that uncommon lately, but it might get that way again. Then, the special occasion. I chose what I chose because, well, I can't find it anymore. It's probably still around. I don't think it's being sold in Ohio right now, so I can't really replace this bottle. But it's a really good bottle, and it's about the same price as the Weller. This is the Maker's Mark 46 cask strength. So it comes in at 54.8% ABV, which is 109.6 proof. So it's the highest proof of all the bourbons that I have in this list. And I've also discovered that by drinking Maker's Mark and through drinking Weller, I really kind of like wheated bourbons. I've always been kind of a high rye bourbon person, as can be evidenced by my love for Old Grandad 114. I don't like that any less. It's just that I've also now found that I like the wheated bourbons. Okay, so that's my 5. If I were to have made this list, I would do it a little bit differently. First of all, I would combine some of them. How about the Wild Turkey 101 as the daily drinker and the cheap mixer? It's not that expensive. How about, I was going to say, how about taking the Impress Your Guest and the Special Occasion and doing 2 completely different bourbons? I was talking about high rye and I was talking about wheaters. Well, I was just looking and I recalled that I actually finished drinking my Knob Creek 9-year 120 proof. That would have been a nice high rye bourbon, and I really liked that one. And then I could include either the Maker's Mark or the Weller, and have included that one. Unfortunately, I don't have that one here. So I think what I'll do is, instead, I will include the Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Now, I had always considered Wild Turkey to be a high rye bourbon, but I saw on their website that the actual mash bill is only 13% rye. So it's not really high rye, but it's not wheat. So we will put that in here. And so the Impress Your Guest and the Special Occasion bourbons will be interchangeable, but one will be wheat and one will not be. Then, of course, well, my Friday night special, I can put the Old Grandad back up here. I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, it's been one of my favorite bourbons for over 40 years. And so I really don't mind drinking that and keeping that on this list. The other bourbon, since I've combined a couple of these, the other bourbon that I would choose might be something that is not actually a bourbon. There are a couple of ways to go here, and I think it should be something that a bourbon lover would enjoy. But I've got a couple of different thoughts and ideas on this. Rye is, of course, one of them. And right now, I do have one pretty good rye. It is Old Overhaul 114. It's the 2020 Ohio release. So it's not one that you're going to find too much for too long, most likely. But that could fit this bill. But there's something else that might be even more interesting to a bourbon drinker. They may or may not have ever tried it. And so they might think, well, I'd really like to try that. I've had several ryes. I know what rye is like. What about this? And that is Ciroc VS Brandy. This is actually finished in bourbon barrels, used bourbon barrels. And so it has some of those bourbon characteristics to it. It's really pretty good. I haven't drank that much of it, only just a little, as you can see from the bottle. But it really is pretty good. There's one other thing on my shelf. Oops, not that one. Again, this is finished in used bourbon barrels. It is Plantation Signature Blend Barbados Rum, aged 5 years. It's got a lot of those bourbon characteristics to it, but it also has some tropical fruitiness and some other things with it. I was really very pleasantly surprised by how good this is. So there you have it. I'll just put this one here for now, but you can see that I have those 3 different ones that could go in there. But if I were doing the list, that's what I would do. I would do a couple of special bourbons, but I would make certain that they were different bourbons. One wheater, one not, or one high rye and one not. Something a little bit different. The Friday night special, combine the cheap mixer with the daily drinker, and then something odd. Perhaps not even a bourbon, a rye, a rum, a brandy, but something that should appeal to the bourbon drinker and interest them, piquing their interest. So those are the 5 that I would choose from my bar in the categories that I would have picked to put them in. If you like my videos, hit that like button. If you want to see more of these kinds of videos, subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. What bourbons would you put in these categories? See you next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll come back now. You hear?